boys and girls. I'm going to continue with our story. This chapter is called A Talk About Money. In almost everyone's life, there is one event that changes the whole course of his existence. The day Sam Beaver visited the Philadelphia Zoo was the turning point in his life. Up until that day, he had not been able to decide what he wanted to be when he grew up. The minute he saw the zoo, all his doubts vanished. He knew he wanted to work in a zoo. Sam loved every living thing, and a zoo is a great storehouse of living things. It has just about every creature that creeps or crawls or jumps or runs or flies or hides. Sam was eager to see them all, but he had Lewis's problem to solve first. He must save Serena from captivity. So he picked up his rucksack and his sleeping bag and walked into the bird house and entered the office. He walked tall and straight as though he were on a forest trail. The head man liked Sam's appearance and noticed that he looked a little like an Indian. "So you're Sam Beaver," said the head man as Sam advanced on him. "Why did you come here?" asked the head man. "To defend freedom," replied Sam. "I heard you intended to clip the wing of a swan. I'm here to ask you not to do that." Sam sat down and they talked for a whole hour. Sam assured the headman that Lewis was an old friend. He told about discovering the swan's nest almost 3 years ago in Canada, about how Lewis came into the world lacking a voice, about Lewis's attending school in Montana and learning to read and write, about the theft of the trumpet by Lewis's father, the Cobb, and about Camp Kookooskoos and the Swan Boat in Boston. The headman listened with great attention, but he wasn't sure he believed a word of this very, very strange story taking place. Then Sam explained his proposal for allowing Serena to go free instead of making a captive bird out of her. He said he thought it would be a good arrangement for the zoo because any time they wanted a young trumpet or swan, Lewis would give them one of his babies. The headman was fascinated. "You mean to say you came all the way to Philadelphia to help out this bird?" "Yes, sir," replied Sam. "I would go anywhere to help him. Besides, Lewis is special. He's an old friend. He went to the same school. You got to admit, he's quite a bird." "He sure is," said the head man. His Sunday afternoon concerts have been the biggest attraction for the zoo. We had a gorilla once named Bamboo. Bamboo was great, but Lewis draws even more of a crowd than Bamboo does. We have sea lions that draw big crowds, but nothing to compare with Lewis when he plays that trumpet. People go crazy, and music is good for the animals too. It soothes them, and they forget the cares of the day. The whole zoo will miss him terribly. I wish he'd stay to keep his bride right here. That would be much better." "Lewis would pine away in captivity. He would die," replied Sam. "He needs wild places like ponds and swamps. He needs red rock lakes. He needs Serena. Please don't clip her wing." "All right," the headman said. "Serena can go. We will not clip her wing. But how can I be sure that Lewis will bring me a trumpet baby?" "He's an honest bird," said Sam. "If he weren't honest and true to his word, he wouldn't have bothered to go out and earn a lot of money to pay the storekeeper back for the trumpet his father stole." "How much money has Lewis got anyway?" he asked the head man. "He's got $4,691.65, said Sam. "We just counted it a few minutes ago. We received $100 from Camp Kookooskoos for playing bugle calls, and all he spent was 60 cents for postage stamps. So he arrived in Boston with $99.40. Of course, then he played for the Swan Boat Man and now the nightclub." "It sure is a lot of money," said the head man. "It sure is. But he's going to pay my airplane fare from Montana to Philadelphia and back again. That will bring the total down to $4,420.78. The headman looked staggered by these figures. "Still a lot of money for a bird." "What's he going to do with all that money?" "Oh, he's going to give it to his father, the Cobb." "And what is the Cobb going to do with it?" "He's going to fly back to Billings and give it back to the storekeeper." "But a trumpet isn't worth $4,420.78. "I know," said Sam. "But there was some damage to the store itself, so the old Cobb wants to pay back the storekeeper as much money as he can to replace the glass window." "Yes," said the head man, "but it still wouldn't take all that money to make things right." "I guess not," said Sam, "but Lewis has no use for money anymore, so he's going to turn it all over to the owner of the trumpet store." The subject of money seemed to interest the headman greatly. He thought how pleasant it would be not to have any more use for money. He leaned back in his chair. He found it hard to believe that one of his swans had been able to take all that money in a very, very short period of time. When it comes to money, he said, birds have it easier than men do. When a bird earns some money, it's almost all clear profit. A bird doesn't have to go to the supermarket, buy eggs, anything to eat, paper towels, dinners, cleaners, peaches, milk. A bird doesn't have to pay rent on a house or interest on a mortgage. A bird doesn't have to insure himself with life insurance. It's quite crazy. Animals and birds are lucky. That's right, replied Sam. But some animals do like to acquire things even though they don't pay anything for them. Such as, the headman said. A rat, said Sam. A rat will fix up a home for himself, but then he'll bring home all sorts of little objects, trinkets and stuff, anything he can find that catches his eye. Oh, that reminds me of the story, The Mouse and the Motorcycle, with all those little trinkets and things that they had in the mouse hole. Remember that? You're right, said the headman. You're absolutely right, Sam. You seem to know quite a lot about animals. I like animals, said Sam. I love to watch them. Then come with me and we'll explore the zoo, said the headman, getting up from his chair. I don't feel like working anymore today. I'll show you the zoo. And away they went, the two of them, to explore. That night, Sam slept in the headman's office by special permission. He unrolled his sleeping bag and lay it out on the floor and crawled in. The plane taking him back home would leave in the morning. Sam's head was full of everything he had seen in the zoo, and before he turned out the light, he took his notebook out of his rucksack and wrote a poem. And this is what he wrote. Of all the places on land and sea, Philadelphia Zoo is the place for me. There's plenty to eat and a lot to do. There's a frigate bird and a tiny shrew. There's a vesper rat and a two-toed sloth. And it's fair to say that I like them both. There's Canadian geese and a polar bear and things that come from everywhere. There's a lot of things that you'll never see, like the Quechua and the wolverine. Really have to go to the zoo to see a newborn wallaroo, or a fallow deer, or a white-tailed gnu. There are wondrous birds on a beautiful lake. There's timber wolf and a hognose snake. There are animals with great appeal, like the hummingbird and the harbor seal. There are pony rides, there are birds of prey, and something happens every day. There are wolves and foxes, hawks and owls, and a great big pit where the lion prowls. There's a quiet pool and pleasant cages where reptiles lie and the tiger rages. The houses are clean and keepers are kind, and one baboon has a pink behind. The entire aim of a well-kept zoo is to bring the animal world to you. Signed, Sam Beaver. Sam left the poem on the headman's desk, and early the next morning, long before the zoo people came to work, Sam left Philadelphia by plane, and Louis and Serena went along with him to the airport. They wanted to wave goodbye. They also planned to leave Philadelphia right there and then and fly back to Montana. When the airport officials saw two big white birds on the airstrip, they raised a terrific fuss. Just going to wait for the phone to ring. It'll ring 4 times. That's 2. Oh, somebody picked it up. Fabulous. The men in the control tower sent warning messages to the pilots of incoming planes. Members of the ground crew came piling out of buildings and rushed toward Louis and Serena to chase them away from the plane. Sam was sitting by the window inside the plane ready for takeoff, and he saw the whole thing happen. Louis grabbed his trumpet. Off we go, he played into the wild blue yonder. The notes carried across the airport and startled everyone. He put his trumpet away and started racing down the airstrip while Serena racing with him. Just then Sam's plane started into the wind for the takeoff. The 2 swans flew alongside the plane. They were in the air before the plane was and flying fast. Sam waved from the window, Louis's life-saving medal gleaming in the morning sun. The plane rose and started to climb. Louis and Serena climbed fast too. Goodbye, Philadelphia, thought Louis. Goodbye, Bird Lake. Goodbye, nightclub. The plane, with its greater speed, gained on the swans, and they began to drop off behind. And for a little while, they beated west, following the plane. Then Louis noticed that Serena was going in a different direction. He motioned to her that he was going to change course. He banked to the left and swung toward the south. We'll go home by the southern route and take our time about it, he said to himself. And that's what they did. They flew south across Maryland and Virginia. They flew south across the Carolinas, and they spent a night in the Yamasee and saw huge oak trees with moss hanging from their branches. They visited the great swamps of Georgia and saw the alligator and listened to the mockingbird. They flew across Florida and spent a few days in the bayou where doves moaned in the cedars and little lizards crawled in the sun. They turned west into Louisiana. Then they turned north toward their home in Upper Red Rock Lake. What a triumphant return it would be. When he left Montana, Lewis had been penniless. Now he was rich. When he left, he had been unknown. Now he was famous. When he left, he had no idea what would happen. And now he comes back, and he has a bride by his side, the swan that he loved. His medal was around his neck. His precious instrument dangled in the breeze. His hard-earned money bag was with him. He had accomplished what he had set out to do, all in a few short months. Freedom felt so wonderful, and love felt so good. So they are on their way back to Billings, Montana. And that'll be it for today, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed this chapter.